Good morning, Guy Griffith. How are you?
All right, fine, thank you. Good morning.
Good. Rise and shine, the early bird.
Good morning, Mr. Griffith.
Of
Good
course,
morning, Gary.
Morning.
Well, congratulations on your party's proffering of candidates for the upcoming local government elections. It's commendable for a party that was recently formed. First big question, given your unceremonious exit from the UNC when you were Minister of National Security and your pronouncements about both the UNC and the PNM following your departure from the police commissioner's posting, why now an accommodation with the very same UNC?
Well, there's no other choice. This has to be done based on what the country is seeing at this time. We have a country right now that has never been so divided. We have a country that is fearful. And when I speak about fearful, I'm not speaking about being fearful of crime. Fearful of intimidation, victimization, being targeted, political manipulation. We have situations where, first time in our history, we have a government that actually is calling an election by force against their will. A government that is spending more time targeting political opponents, not providing the needs of the country. That comes first. That is priority. Nothing, whether past or whether whatever happened in the past, is irrelevant. The country right now is mortified of the fact that they could be the next target based on politics. It has to end. We have a country that is so divided now because of one individual. You can't expect to lead a country when it is you virtually hate half of the country. My intention has always been to serve this country. And if it is I have to serve this country, I have to make certain actions and do certain things to ensure that I can have the opportunity to do what 89% of the country had asked. They wanted me, remember the same commissioner of police you spoke about, when I was a commissioner, 89% of the country wanted me to remain as commissioner or had no issues. And one individual disregarded it. He had
but Gary,
why would you say that the People's National Movement, or at least the leadership of the PNM, hates the other half of the country? You don't think that's hyperbolic?
No, I said one man, not the PNM. There's nothing against the PNM. So it is one individual who wants to lead the country, but he hates half of the country.
And why would you say he hates half of the country? Where do you get that from?
Okay, the fact is, if you listen to, you have an announcement for a local government election of candidates. 75% of his speech was to attack and target the UNC and others. 25% of his speech involved having the audacity to question the intelligence, undermine the intelligence of the nation by stating virtually, we fail to provide you all with your basic needs and services in local government, so we are asking you to bring us back so that we can do local government reform. You had 8 years to have done that, 8 years, and then you lift 3 books and feel that is going to be your opportunity now to get people, to influence them to vote for you. So the fact is, you've seen it. Every single time this man speaks, it is hate, division, anger, animosity, a man totally out of control. What I intend to do is to unify, build, and let me just quickly add, Paul, there's this concern about this word coalition. Over 80 countries in the world had coalition governments, over 80. 30 plus in Europe alone, over a dozen in Asia, America, Africa, the Americas. And even here in Trinidad and Tobago, the fact is people are concerned about coalition governments here. But the worst governments we have seen is the one without a coalition, which is this present one.
Well, that's a perspective. That's a perspective. But Gary, in this conversation that Paul and I started this morning, started on the issue of politics and the optimism and hope that politicians need to give the population, because so many people, it's difficult, and so many voters are disenchanted with the politicians and the constant negative messaging that we get from back and forth. And your trajectory this morning is along that line, and vis-a-vis the optimism and hope, and that kind of messaging that and even if it's hope and change, that translates better to the electorate. But your conversation this morning is along the old template. How do you move, and when do you shift to optimism and hope, or are you interested in that at all?
Well, if you listen to the words, and our one word in this campaign is the word believe. So I agree with you 100%. You're asking me about the reason for me. You see, there's a difference. There's a difference. You asked me the reason why it is we have done this, and now that is something totally different to what you're speaking about. And I agree with you 100%. Just by that word believe, if you recall again, me being back as Commissioner of Police, the country had no belief or trust in the police service. And when I took that public trust and confidence from 14% to 55%, at the end, by the time I left, almost every child wanted to be a police officer before people discredited the police service. We intend to do the same thing in politics. I assure you, the same way I was able to transform the police service to get young people to say they wanted to be a police officer, you're going to see young people eventually saying that they want to be a politician. And I agree with you. We are going to take away that aspect. And if you listen to the words I speak about, I am going to take away that. We are speaking about united rather than dividing. We are speaking about being productive rather than destructive. We are here trying to build the country. And that is where, again, I speak about the word coalition. So that is exactly what you have said is what I intend to do.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned coalition. Going back to the earlier point, I just want some clarity from you, because sure, you had questions about some of the ethical and moral issues in the UNC, in the partnership when you were Minister of National Security. And you were very vocal about the fact that you would maintain your integrity and walk away from what people call a big position, rather than be a part of something unethical or unseemly. Am I incorrect?
Correct.
Right. And now you're going back into an accommodation with the very same entity that you had those issues with. Are you satisfied that those issues have been resolved? Because it just seems irreconcilable to me if you are not satisfied that the issues that made you take a very commendable stand back then, and you're going back into accommodation with that because you say it is necessary.
Exactly, and that is where the hypocrisy, when Keith Rowley, for example, speaks about telling people, do not vote for the UNC because of a Piarco airport situation 23 years ago. And then you would very well say, well, let's not vote for the PNM because of what O'Halloran did 30, 40 plus years ago.
Yeah, I didn't ask you about Keith Rowley, I asked you about you and your stance.
But I'm coming to that, Paul. That is the point I'm trying to state. I'm trying to state that the only way people can develop something and build on something is to be part of something. So if it is that every single time you have a situation where you're not satisfied with what has taken place, well, then every marriage would have ended after about a week, probably. Every person would have left school after the first incident they had with their teacher. Every single person would have ended friendships with an individual. That is not how you build. That is not how you unite. If something may have gone wrong, if there may have been concerns, and that is exactly why I am asking the country to understand and believe in the fact that with Gary Griffith's integrity, I intend to make sure that we have a government that is so unified, that is so has the opportunity for people to say, I trust this government because there are people there that I can believe that they will do the right thing. And that is the point. Had I not been there, Paul, so let's just say that the integrity you speak about Gary Griffith and what the NTA is going to bring, we are not there. What is it for the country? There are 150 to 200,000 people who have that same perspective. They're saying, look, I don't want to be a PNM or a UNC till I die. What is going to happen to those 200 people? Are we going to continue to say, well, let's just continue along that line of being straight and stay away from those two because they are the two worst political parties in the world? No. The only way that we can change the country is to be in government or part of government to ensure that the country can be changed, to ensure proper development, productivity, and unification.
Is it that you think you have a better chance in a coalition arrangement than running solo as a new party?
It is, and I am a realist. My military training is not just to fight wars, it's also to win battles. When anything that I do, I intend to win. And the fact is not winning at all costs, but knowing what is required. There is that so-called bridge constituency started in 1981. They got 91,000 votes. 10 years later, it moved to 127,000 votes with the NAR. 16 years later, it went up to 147,000 votes with the COP. Probably now, 16 years later again, we've changed the initials. So whether you change it to ONR, NAR, COP, NT, in probably 10 years, there might be another set of letters. The fact is that bridge constituency would continue to increase. But at the end of the day, because of the strong base that both political parties hold, it is always going to be very difficult. The point, however, again, doing the maths based on basic strategy, every single time in the history of Trinidad and Tobago that a coalition takes place, the PNM is defeated. In 1986, in 1995, in 2010 general, and 2010 local government. Every single time there's no coalition, the PNM wins, other than one occasion, and that lasted a few months. So the maths is there. It means that, and what I'm doing is I'm going to have discussions with the Congress of the People, HOPE, the MSJ, and other political parties, and let them become part of this, not working under us or for us, but with us. And that is the type of unification I speak about. And that unification, working hand in hand with the United National Congress, is going to ensure for the first time this country is going to see something similar to 1986. 1983 local government election was a foundation when the ONR realized after 1991 what needed to be done. And it built the foundation for arguably the best time this country has ever seen the country so unified. What happened after is something different. But I give the assurance that this time, what you're going to see of that 1986 concept of that NAR is what this country wants. This country needs unification, and I intend to be the catalyst to assist in providing that.
Do you think that the accommodation with the UNC helps or hurts the NTA's brand?
Well, you know, you can never please everyone, Steve. I mean, if it is that, as I said, you have 200,000 persons who are neither UNC nor PNM, you'll probably get 20 or 30,000 say, well, I don't care. You're going to get probably 150 saying, listen, we have to get the PNM out. You're going to get 30,000 say, yeah, anything that could get us in government because I'm an opportunist. Everybody will have different personalities, different views, different opinions. The fact is that whatever fallout you're going to get, the vast majority of that bridge constituency is going to say, we want whatever it is required to remove this government. Also remove, I said, the one individual. And this, again, I want to continue. There's nothing against the PNM. I have high regard for the People's National Movement, just as I do for the UNC. What I find is disappointing is people smear a whole party based on an individual. The Patrick Manning's PNM, you saw what Patrick Manning would have done. He left a legacy. The legacy we are seeing here is that one man continues to cause division, hatred, bitterness, and I intend to do just the opposite. So obviously there would be few people that would have been part of it, and there have been many now. I have been bombarded with calls. I mean, thousands of persons have stated, yeah, now we're willing to come on board, because there are people who did not want to come on board because they figured that bridge constituency could never get anywhere. So there would be people who will want it to happen. There will be a few who would not. The end result is this is giving the assurance that there's going to be success.
Two-part question. One, what factors drove which areas your party is contesting versus the UNC? And two, are you going to be appearing in those areas jointly with the UNC? Because I heard Mrs. Pasabi said last night, said the UNC flag will be flying in all, excuse me.
Yeah, well, what she spoke about was to ensure that the UNC remains as a national party. And so the UNC would obviously have candidates in all of the corporations. In the regions, the NTA, we will be putting focus on six locations, six corporations, whether it's boroughs / corporations, Diego Martin, Port of Spain, San Juan Lavantil, Tunapuna, Arima, and Point Fortin. So it is spread right across, and the corporations that the UNC presently holds, we will not be in it. Now, it is only because of the situations with the alderman. You recall in 2010, when there was the local government election, the Congress of the People had 51 of those 139 on seats.
Isn't that the NTA is contesting the corporations presently controlled by the PNM only?
Yes, correct. Except for San Fernando. And again, there's a reason for that, because of the alderman situation. But again, as I stated, that I intend to walk with two of those seats are presently held by the PNM by just a and that is what I intend to do. I will walk with those two candidates to ensure that seat is that corporation is taken away from the PNM.
How do you also reconcile the issue of Jack Warner's ILP, given Jack Warner's legal issues and the issues that you've spoken about in the past, working with the the coalition. I can call it that, if you can call it that, but that's what it is. And Gavin Nicholas says MND. Are you comfortable with that, given the issues?
Yeah, well, but as it pertains to Gavin Nicholas, he is actually part of the process in the Diego Martin, especially in the Diego Martin corporation. But as it and he is actually on the list. He was actually there at the launch of our candidates yesterday. And again, I see no issue if it is that we put the focus on personalities rather than the bigger picture. That same ILP had in I think it was Lupino Bonner. In that the last election, ILP took part in. ILP got about 4,500 votes, the UNC 4,000 votes, and the PNM 9,000 votes. So it shows that there was a strong support for the ILP at the time. And you see again,
the focus shouldn't be put on personalities. That's what you're saying.
Well, yeah, but at the end of the day, that is how our politics is, definitely. But my point being is that if it is that you have a situation where there are a vast majority of persons who are part of a political party, right? We do not actually even know if Jack Warner is going to be leading the ILP, or if Jack Warner is in the political fray. So this is even a point that we can't even discuss at the time. We do not even know the situation involving Jack Warner.
As I know, Jack Warner is the political leader of the ILP. Has that
I don't
changed?
think so. I don't think so.
It's not? Okay, well, it's time to be corrected.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying, because I know nothing about it.
That you're saying that we shouldn't be putting the focus on personalities, but you've put a lot of focus on Dr. Rowley.
Yeah, no, exactly. I know, but what I'm speaking about is if the ILP had 4,500 voters in an area, and there's an individual that people may be concerned about, and he's no longer there. It goes right back to Keith Rowley. It's exactly my point. If Keith Rowley is no longer there, would people continue to be fearful and speak about how terrible the PNM was over the last 8 years? And the answer is no, and that is my point. You can't just continue to pop and point on an individual to smear a whole political party. That's my point. And it is important that we have to look at the substance of all of these parties, which again, people try to trivialize. You might trivialize how small the present Congress of the People is, or Hope, or any of these parties. But there's a saying that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And that is what I intend to do. You assemble these parties together and we become something of such significance. And what it does as well, it does exactly what you're speaking about, Paul. When you have coalition governments, it ensures checks and balances. It makes sure that you avoid dictatorship, hatred, animosity, division, which is what we are seeing right now.
The last coalition government in this country.
I didn't hear a couple of people.
The last coalition government in 2010 ensured checks and balances.
Well, again, this goes right back to your own point. You speak about personalities, and that is what I want to give the country the assurance. If there were supposed to be checks and balances, and the hierarchy at the time did not do what was required, and say we speak about the British constituency, which was the Congress of the People, people are fully aware of Gary Griffith's integrity, Gary Griffith's intention, and that is why I am giving the country that assurance, because it's just like saying, Paul, people saying, look, I do not want to vote in a coalition government because it collapsed last time. Well, then if that is the case, you say, well, I'm not going to vote for UNC again because what happened in 2000, or based on PNM, based on what Keith Rowley has presently done. You can't do it. This goes back to the personality you just spoke about. That is why I can give the country the assurance that with me being there, you would have seen when a prime minister wants to tell me to arrest political opponents, and I'm saying I'm not doing it. That is integrity. So I don't need a work in local parlance. I don't need a job. I intend to ensure and provide the country with what it needs. And by me being there, I can give you the assurance that the country will have that comfort to know that the hierarchy of a government is there, and we can feel trusted to know that we are being properly represented. And that is
this the first step toward how the NTA performs with a view to an accommodation continuing to 2025?
Oh, definitely. As much as I can say, this is the mother of all local government elections. The reason being is that it is the first time in our history that a government is being forced to call a national election against their will. It obviously is a precursor towards the general election. And that is why I mentioned I did my homework. I looked at what happened in the 1983 local government election and saw that laid the foundation towards the dialogue, the respect, the mutual understanding towards the overwhelming success in 1986. And that is the same thing that we intend to do now, using this as a foundation, as a template. So it's not to say that there's a coalition per se at this time. There's probably, if you want to call it a strategic alliance or strategic accommodation, but whatever you call it, it means that there's a degree of communication, a degree of understanding. And that is what this country needs, Paul. When we have a situation that our biggest concern in this country is the fact that we are the highest amount of murders ever, and the country is more fearful now in crime than anything else. And two political leaders talk to our Prime Minister and say, we are willing to help you, which is Kamala Prasad-Biswas and myself. And a man will say, I do not care on the situation of crime. I do not care if this man had reduced crime, the highest reduction in 17 years. I do not care that the People's Partnership had the highest reduction in serious crime in 35 years. I do not want to communicate, work, talk with you because you all do not have a party card. That virtually means that I am stating that my personal view overrides what the vast majority of the country wants. And if the country drowns in blood, so be it. That is where we have to have dialogue. We must have dialogue. It goes back to the whole being greater than the sum of the part. If it is that you have that type of mutual understanding, I remember Basio Pandey continued to speak about a national government bringing all political parties together. It may have been something far-fetched, but I understood where he was coming from, and that is what this country needs. We need unification and not that type of division and hatred that we have seen for far too long by politicians.
Well, we're out of time, but I want to thank you for also agreeing to take part in our digital debate starting on the 5th of July. I appreciate your consent and willingness to participate in that kind of forum with other political entities.
Well, I actually thought you guys called me to thank me and congratulate me for after taking Rhoda Barrett to court for 2 years. I finally won. She conceded and she had to apologize for the comments she made and had to pay costs. I thought it was that.
Well, I saw that and I didn't have a So what is it about? Tell us, please.
Rhoda Barrett made a very dangerous comment. Again, people have a right to make comments publicly. It is your right. But you can't. We have reached a point again because of politicians, regardless of who it is. They wile up people, and sometimes persons who may not know better feel that you can go on Facebook, you can make any comment about anyone, and it is okay. It is not, because people say it is my right. You cannot infringe on the rights of others because you feel it is your right to stay and do what you want. So there were comments that she made that were very dangerous, and even to the point where in the court yesterday, she was actually virtually accusing me of a criminal act. So I took her to court, then before we went to court, because she would have been paying a hefty fine had this gone all the way. And it was not about me wanting money. It was about me showing a degree of principle. You cannot make those type of accusations on me, or else I will take you to court. And obviously, they would have conceded. She had to make the apology and pay my costs. And that's what I intend to do. Right now, presently, I have the Prime Minister in court for trying to form an audit without speaking to me, breach of natural justice, and try to go in Parliament, where is the one place that you can lie and make statements without being sued. I have them in court for the FIU being used by the state to monitor the accounts of individuals. I have them in court for intercepting my phone, and I have several other people in court as well. And that I intend to, and I ask the country, understand, it is your right. Do not feel that anyone has a right to cast aspersions and smear your character and discredit you and feel that there's nothing that you can be done. The justice system in this country, it continues to work well. It's the one thing that I see that at least there's hope for, where it cannot be politically manipulated.
Gary, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Yes.